I like to give all glory and praise and honor unto the Most High. We're going to get into it, man. And now, what the Europeans did was they lumped all black people into one category. And there's a lot of confusion with that. Why? Because, we all are not the same. We have different histories. We come from different bloodlines and things like that, things of that nature. And that's where the confusion comes in, because a lot of these guys out here, you think that they are your brethren and your brothers, but in reality, they're not. They're not. And I'm coming to realize that, race was a European construct that came about in the late 16th century, but people never classified themselves according to race. They did it in the ancient times according to your nationality. That's how they classified you. It wasn't no white or black or nothing like that. It wasn't anything like that. But what we're gonna be getting into today is we're gonna be showing you that there were wicked Negroes. That look just like you. But they weren't of your nationality. They weren't of your tribe. That were up against you. These people were actually your enemies, man. And we're gonna be using scripture, and we're gonna get into it, man. Psalms 83. I'm gonna start at verse 1. Keep not thy silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted it up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones, man. Crafty counsel, man. Crafty counsel. What does that mean? They operate in secrecy, secret societies, Freemasons, man. Secret brotherhoods, secret pacts, secret oaths. Let's bring up that definition real quick. Crafty. Right here, clever at achieving one's aims by indirect or deceitful methods, man. That's what they do in these lodges, man. Crafty counsel. They join together, they assemble together, and they take crafty counsel to achieve their goals, man. Deceitful methods, man. Oh, man, let's keep going. They have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance, man. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee, the tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites, of Moab, and the Hagarenes. And we're going to focus on the Hagarenes today, man. Gebal and Ammon, Amalek, the Philistines, and the inhabitants of Tyre, man. All these nations, man, and more, are confederate together. They've taken crafty counsel, against one nation of people, man, to cut them off from being a people, it says, that they may be no more. They're going to forget who they are. We're going to, we're going to lie to them. We're going to deceive them, man. We're going to act deceitfully towards these people, man. Crafty counsel, man. So right there now in verse 6, we're going to focus on the Hagarenes, man. Now you see the etymology of that word. It goes back though. You remember Abraham had a what is it? You could call her his concubine from Sarah, that he impregnated and had Ishmael with. So that these Hagarenes right here, what it's talking about, these are the Egyptians, man. These are the Egyptians that it's talking about. The Hagarenes. So let's keep going. So I'm pretty sure you guys are aware of the stories of how in the Bible of how the Egyptians enslaved the Israelites, man. And these were a people of color. These were black people, man. And we're not talking about those in Egypt today in that land. Those are not the original inhabitants of that land. Those are just invaders. When we talking about Egypt, we talking about in ancient times where there were black people here, heavily pigmented people of color. You know, so these were people of color doing this to another set of people, man, of color. You know, and this society is heavily influenced by a lot of the Egyptian, you know, practices. You know, a lot of the Egyptian knowledge. You know, these are the things that they study in the lodges and things like that. I mean, you see it everywhere. You know, it's heavily influenced by a lot of the Egyptians, man, and the things that they studied, you know, or indulged themselves in, you know, back then. For example, let's take a look at this. So right here, you have the dollar bill, and on the back of the dollar bill, you have the, you know, a pyramid, you know, pretty much the Egyptian pyramid, and you have, they call it a phoenix, but it's an eagle to me. It's an eagle, you know. And when you really study this, the back of the dollar bill more, you know, it's hidden, you know, esoteric knowledge on here that goes even deeper. But you know, now, well, I just want to say, like, why the pyramid and this eagle? You know, because they're showing you right here that Egypt and Rome are working together, man. You know, Egypt and Rome are working together. They've taken crafty counsel, you know, them are, along with the other nations, man, to cut the name of Israel off, man. You know, these are our black people, man. These are our black people that's doing this. Because remember in the scriptures, you know, they mistook Paul for Egyptian. You know, but what is he? Paul was an Israelite. You know, Moses, they mistook him for, you know, Egyptian. You know, but he was an Israelite. You know, so these are similar looking people, man. But they have different nationalities, man. Different backgrounds, different type of bloodlines, different type of histories, man. You know, and this eagle over here, it represents Rome, the Romans, man. You know, the Romans is, you know, they used the eagle in everything that they did, man, when they went to war. I mean, they plastered it everywhere, man. The Europeans, the Greeks, you know, this was their symbol. Let's bring this up real quick. So this is in the writings of Josephus, man. It says right here, the highlighted part, then came the ensigns encompassing the eagle, which is at the head of every Roman legion, man. This is what, like, you know, when they went to war, they had their flags and things like that. You know, it was the eagle that is telling you right here. You know, the eagle, which is at the head of every Roman legion. So right here, you have the Greeks. You know, they had an eagle on the back of their coin back in the ancient days. The Romans, I mean, eagle. United States, they have an eagle. And what's the symbol of the United States in this modern day time? What do they use? They use the bald eagle as their, you know, as their national bird. You know, so the eagle, man. So they're telling you right here, you know, symbolically, that Egypt and Rome are one, man. You know, they're one. And I just read Psalms 82 showing you that, you know, one of those people that, you know, that was a part of that confederate, that crafty council, was the Hagarenes, man. You know? Oh, man. You know, who are the Egyptians, man? The Hagarenes. Like I said, the etymology goes back to Hagar. So these Europeans, they learned everything, you know, they say they learned all this knowledge, esoteric knowledge, from the Egyptians, man. You know, like I said, these were a people of color in the scriptures that was oppressing the Israelites, man. It wasn't a white man. I mean, it wasn't the Caucasians back then. These were another people that hated your guts, man. That looked similar to you. You know. So right here, you seen that it's showing you that they're in cahoots, man. Oh man. Oh man. You know, but with that being said, you know, the Israelites and the Egyptians, you know, their histories are also intertwined, because Joseph, he did have an Egyptian woman. He had an Egyptian wife. You know, and you know, Abraham, he did have, you know, a child with Hagar. You know, so the histories is intertwined. But nevertheless, you know, these were a people that enslaved the Israelites, and they did it in a crafty, sneaky way. And this is where we're going to get into, and we're going to read this, and show you how sneaky they were. And we're going to, just bear with me as we dive further, man, as we get into this right now. And we're going to be reading in the book of Jasher today. So bear with me, book of Jasher, chapter 65, and you're going to see, the crafty counsel that they take, the deception, and they still doing these things in this modern day time. A lot of these guys in these secret societies, they want you, to come into these things. A lot to keep you deceived, to keep you away from your power. They lie about the scriptures. The entire goal is to lead you astray, keep you deceived, man. These are people, like I said, that look similar to you, that's doing this. Because they're in league with the Europeans. They're in league with the Romans. Oh, man. So we're going to get into it, man. You're going to see. So Joshua 65, verse 1. And it came to pass after these things that all the counselors of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and all the elders of Egypt assembled and came before the king and bowed down to the ground and sat before him. And the counselors and the elders of Egypt spoke unto the king, saying, Behold, the people of the children of Israel is greater and mightier than we are, and thou knowest all the evil which they did to us in the road when we turned from battle, man. So there was a battle, and the Egyptians ran away, and the children of Israel didn't like that, so they kind of roughed them up a little bit, And thou hast also seen their strong power, for this power is unto them from their fathers. But a few men stood up against a people numerous as the sand, and smote them at the edge of the sword, and of themselves not one has fallen. So that if they had been numerous, they would have utterly destroyed them. So they're saying, look, these small group of Israelites, stood up against a large majority, and they beat them, and not one of these guys died. So if there was more in number, if there was more of them, then look, it would have been a wrap. Only the small group did that. This is what he's saying. Verse 5. Now therefore, give us counsel what to do with them until we gradually destroy them from amongst us, lest they become too numerous for us in the land. Counsel, man. Give us counsel of what to do with them until we gradually, slowly destroy them from amongst us, because they don't want them to grow. Let's go. Verse 6. For if the children of Israel should increase in the land, they will become an obstacle to us. And if any war should happen to take place, they, with their great strength, will join our enemy against us and fight against us and destroy us from the land and go away with it. So the king answered the elders of Egypt and said unto them, This is the plan advised against Israel, from which we will not depart. Behold, in the land of Pithom and Ramses, cities unfortified against battle, it behooves you and us to build them and fortify them. Now, therefore, go you also and act cunningly towards them, and proclaim a voice in Egypt and in Goshen at the command of the king, saying, All ye men of Egypt, Goshen, Pathros, and all the inhabitants, the king has commanded us to build Pithom and Ramses and to fortify them for battle. Who amongst you of all Egypt and the children of Israel and all inhabitants of the cities are willing to build with us shall each have his wages given to him daily at the king's order. So go you first and do cunningly and gather yourselves and come to Pithom and Ramses and build. So they're devising a plan for them to come build, in these places in Goshen and Pathros. They're trying to get the children of Israel in. They're devising a plan to get them to work. In verse 11, and whilst you are building, cause a proclamation of this kind to be made throughout Egypt every day at the command of the king. And verse 12, and when some of the children of Israel shall come to build with you, you shall give them their wages daily for a few days, man. So they, so it seemed good at first. Like, look, man, they're gonna come and we're gonna pay them. We're gonna pay them their wages. That seems fair, right? Like, yeah, I work, you pay me. So let's keep going. But remember, the whole plan was to gradually destroy them. You mean? Let's keep going. Verse 13. So verse 13. And after they shall have built with you for their daily hire, drag yourselves away from them daily one by one in secret, man. In secret. Crafty counsel, man. Remove yourself from them in secret, is saying. Let's keep going. And then you shall rise up and become their taskmasters and officers. And you shall leave them afterward to build without wages. And should they refuse, then force them with all your might to build. Oh man, that's slimy, man. You know. So you were supposed to pay them, and then you move. You mean, and then you're being slimy and not paying that person. You know, and then you're gonna whoop their ass if they don't listen to you. That's crazy. In verse 14, and if you do this, it will be well with us to strengthen our land against the children of Israel. For on account of the fatigue of the building and the work, the children of Israel will decrease, because you will deprive them from their wives day by day. Oh man, so they thought that, look, then from the fatigue, from all the building, they want to be able to reproduce with their woman, you know. Oh man, and on top of that, you killing them. Verse 15. And all the elders of Egypt heard the counsel of the king, and the counsel seemed good in their eyes, and in the eyes of the servants of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all Egypt, and they did according to the word of the king. And all the servants went away from the king, and they caused a proclamation to be made in all Egypt, in Tapsnas, and in Goshen, and in all the cities surrounded, and in all the cities which surrounded Egypt, saying, you have seen what the children of Esau and Ishmael did to us, who came to war against us and wished to destroy us. Now therefore the king commanded us to fortify the land, and to build the cities of Pittom and Ramses, and to fortify them for battle if they should again come against us. Verse 19. Whosoever of you from all Egypt and from all the children of Israel will come to build with us, he shall have his daily wages given by the king, as his command is to us, man. So you see that? I mean, this is crafty counsel, man. You know, they're being crafty, sneaky, conniving, you know, because they feared them. You know, that was the real reason. They feared them. They seen how strong they were in battle, you know. Verse 20. And when Egypt and all the children of Israel heard all that the servants of the Pharaoh had spoken, there came from the Egyptians and the children of Israel to build with the servants of Pharaoh, Pittom and Ramses. But none of the children of Levi came with their brethren to build, you know. And the servants and all the servants of Pharaoh and his princes came at first with deceit to build with all Israel as daily hired laborers. And they gave to Israel their daily hire at the beginning. And the servants of the Pharaoh built with all Israel, and they were employed in that work with Israel for a month, only a month. I mean, they were giving them their wages. And at the end of the month, all the servants of Pharaoh began to withdraw secretly from the people of Israel. So this was all in the plan, man. I mean, secret societies, you know. Let's gang up. I mean, let's work together. Let's watch this person. Let's do this, you know. This was what they were doing back then. This is what they were doing. This is what the Egyptians did. You know, secretly trying to screw them over because they were afraid of them, man. You know? Oh, man, let's keep going. Verse 24. And Israel went on with the work at that time, but they then received their daily hire, because some of the men of Egypt were yet carrying on the work with Israel at the time. Therefore, the Egyptians gave Israel their hire in those days, in order that they, the Egyptians, their fellow workmen, might also take the pay for their labor. At the end of the year and all 4 months, all the Egyptians had withdrawn from the children of Israel, so that the children of Israel were left alone, engaged in the work. And after all the Egyptians had withdrawn from the children of Israel, they returned and became oppressors and officers over them. And some of them stood over the children of Israel as taskmasters to receive from them all that they gave them, for the pay of their labor. And the Egyptians did in this manner to the children of Israel day by day, in order to afflict in their work. Day by day they afflict them, man, in their work. And all the children of Israel were alone engaged in their labor, and the Egyptians refrained from giving any pay to the children of Israel from that time forward. And when some of the men of Israel refused to work on account of the wages not being given to them, then the exactors and the servants of the Pharaoh oppressed them and smote them with heavy blows and made them return by force to labor with their brethren. Thus did all the Egyptians unto the children of Israel all these days. And all the children of Israel were greatly afraid of the Egyptians in this matter. And all the children of Israel returned and worked alone without pay. And the children of Israel built Pithom and Ramses, and the children of Israel did work, some making bricks, some building, and the children of Israel built and fortified all the land of Egypt and its walls. And the children of Israel were engaged in work for many years, until the time came when the Lord remembered them and brought them out of Egypt. Oh man. But the children of Levi were not employed in the work with their brethren from Israel from the beginning unto the day going forth from Egypt. For all the children of Levi knew that the Egyptians had spoken these words with deceit to the Israelites. Therefore, the children of Levi refrained from approaching to the work of their brethren. So see that the Levites were smart. They were the only ones, the only tribe that were under that bondage of the Egyptians. You know what I mean? Because they from jump they wasn't dealing with them, and they left them alone. So verse 34, and the Egyptians did not direct their attention to make the children of Levi work afterward, since they had not been with their brethren at the beginning. Therefore the Egyptians left them alone. And the hands of the men of Egypt were directed and continued severity against the children of Israel in that work. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel work with rigor. And the Egyptians embittered the lives of the children of Israel with hard work in mortar, in brick, and also in manner of work in the field. And the children of Israel called Merah, king of Egypt, because in his days the Egyptians had embittered their lives with all manner of work. And all the work wherein the Egyptians made the children of Israel labor, they exacted with the rigor in order to afflict the children of Israel. But the more they afflicted them, you see right here, the more they afflicted them, the more they increased and grew. And the Egyptians were grieved because of the children of Israel. So their whole plan was to screw these guys over, to take the land back. But the more they afflicted them, the more they beat them up, the more they grew. The more they grew. Oh man, crafty counsel, man. You know what I mean? So you see how they operated, and that kind of, thing that they did, that crafty counsel, that is, that sneakiness that did, it could only be pulled off if they were in a secret society. They had a secret pact. And this is what's going on out here today, man. Crafty counsel. You got people, married into other people's families, just to gain an inheritance, kill them off, gain an inheritance, things like that, things of that nature, they put the AIDS out there to slowly, kill the populations off. All these things, were handcrafted, man. These things were, talked about in secret meetings, against a certain people, man. Crafty counsel, man. This is what they did. And like I said, the Europeans, they learned this blueprint from the Egyptians, man. But they just took it to a whole nother level. This is crafty counsel. Like I said, these were a Negro people, man. That looks similar to you that was doing this to you. Because they, in the scriptures, when you read more in Joshua, it said they forgot about all the good that their forefathers did unto the Egyptians. When their forefathers died, a new generation of Egyptians rose up, and they forgot about all the good that they did. So they started afflicting them, man. But the Most High said what these other nations was going to do to you, They hate your guts, man. They're going to hate you. They're going to afflict you, man. And they know that a lot of our people, we go a-whoring after the other nations and the things that they have. And that's how they get you with that bait, that hook, And then they get you to deceive your own people, man. When you enter into these secret societies, man. This is what they do, man. They doing nothing but lying in these secret societies, man. Taking crafty counsel against certain people to destroy them. Because they're scared. Oh, man. So we're just going to read this little part right here from Josephus. And it's showing you right here why they couldn't destroy them, you know. Because number one, the scripture says the Most High is never going to abolish the posterity of his elect, you know. That's number one. And we're just going to read this right here. It says right here, it is true, no entire destruction can seize upon the nation of the Hebrews, neither by war, nor by plague, nor by sacrilege of fruits of the earth, nor can any other unexpected accident be their entire ruin. For the providence of God is concerned to preserve them from such a misfortune, nor will it permit any such calamity to come upon them, whereby they may all perish, man. There's nothing you can do to wipe them off, man. You know, yeah, you may kill them, you know, but you can't wipe them all off because the Most High has his hand on them. But some small misfortunes, and those for a short time, whereby they may be appeared to be brought low, may still befall them. But after that, they will flourish again to the terror of those that brought those mischiefs upon them. So you see it? So they may be brought low for a little bit, you know what I mean? But they're going to rise back up and be a terror to those that brought mischief upon them. It says right here in Josephus, you know? So this is why, you know, the Egyptians couldn't wipe them off, man. I mean, nothing, man. Neither by war, by plague, you know, by famine. Oh, man. You can't wipe them off, man. But this is what the Egyptians were trying to do. And this is what's going on out here today, man. You know, you got people that look similar to you, you know, that's deceiving the masses. And then they're baiting, you know, the others, you know, of our people, you know, to come into these groups. And they know once they do that, they're drawing you away from your power. They're drawing you away from the Most High. You know, just like with Balaam and Balak, that conversation that Balaam and Balak had when he was trying to curse them. He said, look, I can't curse what the Most High has blessed, you know, but they could curse themselves, you know, if they fall into sin, you know, if they're being disobedient. So this is what they do, you know. So all these things that they have set up out here is to draw you away from the Most High. And that's how they stay in charge. That's how they stay in power over you, man. You know. Crafty counsel, man. Secret societies, man. This is what's going on out here, man. This is what they doing. You see how they devised that plan? You know, that plan, that had to be organized, man. Very organized, strategically, man. You know, but like I said before, the Most High told us what these other nations gonna do once we go off, man. They're not gonna give a damn about you. You know, these it's the same thing going on here. These are the same ones as modern day time. Nothing under the sun, torturing you, whooping you, beating you up. You know, trying to start fights with you because they in these groups and they've taken crafty counsel, man. You know, and they know exactly who you are. They know who they are. You know, according to scripture. You know, and they in league with the Europeans, the Romans. So with that being said, all praises to the Most High, man. And, you know, that's it, man. They in league with them to do wickedness, man. That's it, man. Hopefully this was edifying.